I could do this all day.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is set to hit Disney Plus in August 2020. In it, fans speculate we'll see Anthony Mackie's Falcon make the transition to the new Captain America thanks to him having custody of the shield. This lines up with events in the comics, but what if there's more going on here? In this video, we're going to be talking about leaks and rumors, so if you want to go into the show completely blind, bookmark this video for later. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is an upcoming live-action series set to premiere on Disney+. After the success of The Mandalorian, many Disney subscribers are looking for that next big show to justify their subscription. That show will more than likely be the first foray into Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Near the final moments of Avengers Endgame, an elder Steve Rogers passes on his signature shield to Sam Wilson,
I'll do my best.
effectively passing on the torch of being Captain America. While Bucky looked on approvingly, Sam wasn't exactly jumping for joy here. In fact, he looked a bit conflicted. Sam knows that there's a lot of weight in accepting responsibility for the shield. How will people react to a new Captain America? Will he be as good as Steve? Does he even want to be the new Captain America, or does he prefer being the Falcon? While there may be a lot on Sam's mind in those moments, star Anthony Mackie is honored to pick up the shield of Captain America. In a recent interview, Mackie had this to say about becoming the new Captain America. At this day and age in America, I think we are open-minded to the idea of having my face represent us as a country, he explained. To be Captain America, I want my Captain America to represent everybody, not just a specific group of people. Mackie is on the right page, but how will the people in the MCU react to Sam Wilson becoming the new shield? More importantly, how will the US government react? That's where US Agent comes in. Now, unless you're familiar with the source material, you're probably asking yourself, who the heck is US Agent? John F. Walker made his debut in 1986 in Captain America issue 323 as the villainous Super Patriot. He was brought in to be Cap's exact opposite, to counter Cap's patriotic sensibility and become a patriotic villain. He was quickly redesigned in a few issues to become the new Captain America in a ploy that was openly admitted by US Agent creator Mike Grunenwald to boost sales. After that, Walker was redesigned yet again and became US Agent. What's interesting about US Agent though is that his costume is very similar to Cap's original outfit. As it turns out, US Agent will be a character in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series. While Daniel Bruhl is returning as Zemo from Civil War, complete with a mask heavily inspired by his comic book origins, he may not be the only villain the duo face in the series. Wyatt Russell is set to play US Agent in the Disney Plus series, and thanks to some leaked photos from the set, we have learned quite a bit about the character. Some photos of Russell on set in costume have made their way to the internet. One photo sees Walker in his regular military uniform. What's interesting is that he appears to have a broken arm. The next photo is where all the good stuff is though. Not only is his arm healed, but Walker is looking an awful lot like Captain America in this shot. The costume brings to mind the costume Steve wore in 2012's Avengers film, only with some modifications. What's more striking is that he's sporting the shield that Rogers entrusted to Sam. This is why we think the broken arm picture is earlier on in the show. Sam would have the shield by the beginning of the series, and if Walker is introduced in episode 1 out of 6, he'll likely be injured in the beginning, perhaps injured overseas. Things don't look good for Sam. Perhaps he doesn't want the burden of being Captain America, but likely the government wants to operate their own agent this time around. But if his arm is healed, there's likely more going on than him being a poster child for the government. Like Captain America, Walker actually has a set of superpowers, but the shady individual didn't get them from the government as Cap did. Before becoming Super Patriot in the comics, Walker actually visited the black market and paid for his skill set from the merchant known as Power Broker. In the comics, his serum would augment the strength of the paying customer. The idea was that these individuals would then become indebted to Power Broker, and he would have an army of superpowered individuals at his disposal one day. If we had to guess, this serum also includes the ability to heal wounds. While Steve Rogers does have a superior healing power thanks to the serum,
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
it's not like Wolverine's. Instead, he has a higher white blood cell count, meaning he'll heal faster than a regular human. But what if the government, the power broker, or even Zemo has improved upon the super soldier serum? What if Walker has healing powers that could rival Wolverine's? That would be a scary reality for Sam and Bucky, especially if Walker starts the series as a rogue agent. Chances are, Walker will be masquerading as the new Captain America, but, like his comic book counterpart, will be a more chaotic interpretation of the original character. Perhaps he's actually an agent of Zemo, who essentially has a double agent working for him with the most inspiring costume on the planet.
I am so fired.
Zemo is one of the more interesting villains in the MCU thus far. He's the only villain to rely on his brains as opposed to brute force.
I studied you. I followed you.
If he were to try and pick a fight head-on with any of the Avengers, he'd lose in a matter of moments. But to Zemo, a conflict seems to be like a chessboard, and he's the chess player. So John Walker, as US agent, may unknowingly be a pawn in a scheme orchestrated by Zemo himself. So while Walker's knowingly doing work for the government, there may be something more nefarious at work. Zemo would use the Captain America symbolism and his association to justice to wrap that perception, to rip apart the establishment from the inside. Walker seems to relish the idea of being a propaganda machine, as evident by the Super Bowl teaser. Ironically, the footage of US Agent we got in that footage showed him gallivanting onto a football field during halftime. It's very reminiscent of Cap's early days during the war, but Wyatt seems to love it much earlier on. He seems to love the attention and the fame, the idea of being Captain America, even though he's not. But that passion may help drive him to do things that Steve Rogers never could or would do, which is where the real danger of US Agent comes into play. By being so closely associated with Captain America's imagery, Walker can start to do some real damage with public opinion. Before becoming a part of the West Coast Avengers in the comics, Walker was a bit of a bad apple. He was the exact polar opposite of Captain America, the anti-Steve Rogers. What if Walker starts telling ordinary people that certain truths and moral values aren't applicable anymore, which may mirror certain headlines in 2020. In the MCU, Rogers vanished from public life and went back in time to become an old man. So for many people in the primary timeline, the real Captain America sort of just disappeared one day after the decimation and battle with Thanos. What if the government, realizing the vacant hole left behind by Rogers, installed their own agent in his place to try and cover his absence up? The world already lost Iron Man. How would they react with losing Captain America as well? With Cap being a symbol for all that is good and just, the government would likely want to fill that hole. While Sam is granted the shield, he is also a friend of Rogers, and both were labeled as traitors by General Ross. Thankfully, John Walker in costume looks an awful lot like Captain America the masses know. But what if your idol, the person you model your morals and lifestyle on, your hero, starts acting differently? What if those values no longer apply and Captain America begins to go rogue? While super strength and speed are always going to be a threat to Sam Wilson, who has no superpowers, public opinion carries a lot of weight. What if people lose faith in Captain America before Sam Wilson even has the chance to become the next Shield? Steve Rogers entrusted the Shield to Sam Wilson for one reason and one reason only. Sam Wilson shares the same moral beliefs as Rogers does. Before getting enhanced in the 40s, Abraham Erskine told Rogers that the necessary qualifications for getting the Super Soldier Serum was being a good man.
Good becomes great. Bad becomes worse.
So even though Sam isn't strong like Rogers was, at his core, he shares the same principles, whereas John Walker most likely does not. So will it end with a battle of philosophies between the two Captain Americas? We think that's a fair guess. The show bills Sam Wilson as Falcon, but the imagery around the show focuses heavily on Captain America's shield. John Walker's US agent could tip the scales for what Captain America should represent. He has the public's attention and is clearly popular thanks to his appearance at a football game. Whether he's aware of it or not, he may end up tarnishing the values that Cap was starting to protect. Being able to lift a car is one thing, but real power is getting the people on your side. If he starts manipulating the people to believe that everything Steve Rogers fought for was wrong, that could be really damaging for Sam Wilson. Couple that with the knowledge that Walker is likely operating under the orders or influence of Zemo makes him a real threat. Zemo is likely still pretty angry at the Avengers due to the events at the end of Civil War. While Steve Rogers is out of his reach, Sam Wilson is now the spiritual successor to Captain America. He failed to destroy the Avengers from the inside before, but by turning the public against the symbol that unites the Avengers could be devastating. Things are even harder for Sam when you factor in that he has no superpowers. In the comics, Walker Walker may have gotten his powers from the black market, but considering Zemo's involvement in the show, we have to also consider the possibility that Zemo gives him powers in exchange for loyalty. Regardless, Sam Wilson is at a serious disadvantage against Walker if they were to go toe-to-toe. Thankfully for him, his buddy Bucky Barnes, the once Winter Soldier, knows a thing or two about fighting Captain America. And thankfully for Bucky, Zemo can't control him anymore. Right? And that's all the information we can theorize just on US Agent and Sam Wilson. We can only speculate as to what Zemo's ultimate plan is and how US Agent will be involved in the plot. One thing is for certain though, we'll find out all the answers this August when the show hits Disney+. And that's why we think John F. Walker will be more powerful than Steve Rogers in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If you like what you just saw, thanks. Subscribe and we'll give you more. See you next time.